Testing 1, 2.
He's going to be in the next few minutes. He's also stuck in traffic.
Julle 'n baie just wie oor het sy.
Dit was weer nou net.
Jy dink ek het 'n mic.
Ja, as ek dit inplak vir iemand wat daar gepraat
Flashback. Dis nog my love daai van. Anders sê ek dit is nie te loop nie, ek het gedink is van die begin af so is hier ja, Lena so
Net as jy dit start.
bro.
Maar dat is omdat het veel Yes.
Ja, maar net as dit maak op van as dit versaai
Dis ook John's identity project.
Ja.
Was het aan een wat just just gewoon in nou scooters. Maar weet je wat?
Dus ek hier aan die kant.
Wat van zo'n bicycle
Baie. Kan nou iets weiter.
Don't breathe, yeah.
Testing 1 2 1 2. What are you? Testing 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Ik kan hem jou hoor op je oorfoon. 1 2. Armand. Just keep on talking.
Please go and switch out downstairs with the girls.
Okay, so sorry.
Hello. Hi. Aangename kennis. Ja.
Keep on talking.
I could be looking at this and I think, oh, must be BP. Yes, boss.
I'm not on. Continue talking.
Oh, is it? Is it making sound?
Yeah, just continue talking. I'm moving around so the sound can
Cool.
be on. So.
Maar die mic is, ik wil het net sê.
Ik loop in rond terwijl hulle net praat. Daar so sit ek die camera.
Some of their conversations there
Nou,
as well.
ek kan nie die camera in. Dan is dit kan sê daar.
Just to let everybody know, we're starting in 5 minutes.
We put our phone on like this and that to reflect off that sheet. What was that called again, man? Sharon, what was that called?
What is what called?
Where we had to take our phone. We had
that sheet,
that
that
3D,
casing.
yeah, thing that we had to make, man. We put our
The
phone
hologram.
on. The hologram. There we go.
Okay. So this would be it's a resin that's activated with UV.
Okay.
As soon as it's actually hard, as soon as you put your UV light onto the resin, the UV activator kicks in and makes it go hard almost instantly in 10 sections. And that's how they grows that from the bottom of the advantage. If you look very closely at that, you'll
I've got like a very interesting question. So I saw them 3D print a computer box.
full size computer
Yeah,
tower.
like a
Yes,
full-
yeah.
Okay. So what happens to the material with regards to when you actually run that box? Like, is it completely safe? Is it?
It depends on which material you're referring to. So you get your PLA, which is your cornstarch biodegradable
Yeah.
material, and you get your ABS, which is your general
Okay.
household plastics. PETG, which is your Coca-Cola bottle
Yeah,
material, which is also
Yeah.
food grade safe.
Okay.
But they would probably be printed out of PLA, which is pretty much 100% safe. Yeah. Food
Okay.
grade too.
That's cool.
Yeah, well that's the thing. Yeah, the PLA model.
Range of offerings in terms of
Amazing.
lenses.
Because currently I have this one over here that I'm currently using.
Okay.
But I'm in the market for a new one and I really like this one.
That's the
So
camera.
what would these type of cameras go for?
You can pick them up from 16,000 rand and you can go up 130,000
Okay.
in terms of
What is this one?
that's the Nikon
ZFC.
ZFC.
How much is the market for?
Now at the moment 20 million. But what we're doing for the CAD4ALL program is we're giving you a 10% student voucher, and then I brought forward the festive pricing, so that's already on a reduction. Plus you're going to get 10% off. So I've shared it with Jody and Ryan. I prefer them giving you guys the pricing. That's all right.
That is great. Thank you.
But we
And I bought
Not this condom.
That's why it's 2.5 hours, you know.
the cabinets out of.
He said no.
Actually, my friends, it's the guy who works for us. They're all his friends, and he knows them to be like, so what is fixed? What about the fact? On condition, I give them back.
All right, if I can have everybody's attention, please. All right, thank you very much for everybody for joining us here at the first ever, but not last, CAD4ALL Architecture Design Build Expo for 2022. All right, so what are we going to be looking at over the next few days? Firstly, as you can see, we've got our industry partners here. Today, most of you standing in front of me for our students. These are the guys that you are going to be working, the guys and the ladies, my apologies. You are going to be working with once you get out into industry. So I'm going to start off first of all by welcoming them because they are today our esteemed guests, as well as over this whole 3-day period that we are going to be running. So first of all, here to my left, we have Contracts on Demand from eCloud Construction. Then we have Emran. They are the filament providers for the 3D printing. Next to them, we have Netrum Technologies. They are the guys who supply the 3D printers. Next to them, we have Nikon, so for all of your photography needs. Then on this side to my right, we have Ashway Investments, part of the South African Institute for Refrigeration and Air Conditioning. Then we have the South African Institute of Building Design. Next to that, we have the NHBRC. And then in their absence, joining us tomorrow because they have another function on today, we will also have Leica Geosystems. So I think you can give a round of applause to them as our guests for being here. All right. Now, as I mentioned, this is a first for CAD4ALL to host this event, but definitely not the last. One of the first and most momentous achievements that we can notice for this week is the fact that CAD4ALL is officially, as a college, 14 years old this week. So we have been around for quite a while, but as a college, you are our 14th year of students that we are training, and we are very excited to have you here with us on this launch day. As you can see here behind me, we have our blog open. Now, our blog actually speaks for what we are doing here over these 3 days. These 3 days are a culmination of various different achievements, of various different partnerships with industry that have all brought us here for this 3-day event. So first of all, like I said, we've got the 14th birthday. Then, very, very excitingly, last week, we found out that we have 3 finalists in the top 9 for the Caesarstone design competition throughout South Africa. And if I can see, I see one finalist speaking out the back. I don't know if the others are here, but congratulations to Anine, Vivian, and Jean for making it into the top 9 this year. All right, then also this is the launch of the CAD4ALL STEM. So if you do not know what STEM is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So if you have been watching and following CAD4ALL, we've been very much involved with the Western Cape Education Department, implementing CAD into the schools. We would like that when you leave high school and you are a graphically and engineeringly focused student, that you actually leave with something a bit more than just doing EGD. So throughout South Africa soon, but at the moment, the whole Western Cape has got AutoCAD implemented in every high school that has got engineering, graphics, and design. So students are no longer working just on drawing boards. The students at high school, grade 10 through grade 12, are already working on AutoCAD. So by the time they leave high school, they can actually enter into their fields of study with AutoCAD knowledge behind them. So with that, we are launching the STEM program to introduce a national design competition. And this year, launching in December, the competition for 2023 is focusing on harnessing the wind. So if you do not know about harnessing the wind, please go onto YouTube, check out a guy, and I just need to look down because I don't want to mispronounce his name. His name is William Kamkwamba. So he is the gentleman who founded Harnessing the Wind. And if you go and watch his YouTube video of his TED Talk, you'll see exactly why we have chosen this as the first competition to host with CAD4ALL. We are very much going to be involved with the 3D printing thereof. So if you take a look at the desk here in front of me, you'll see that we have a little robotic of a windmill there. If the sun was shining, it would be spinning away. But unfortunately, we've got a bit of cloud cover today. So the students in the high schools would actually be designing these wind turbines and eventually 3D printing them, as well as doing the coding for the robotics and doing all of the little pieces to get all of that together. So as you can see, that is why we have called this the Architecture and Design Build. Obviously, CAD4ALL, we all know we focus on the AEC industry, architecture, engineering, and construction, but CAD4ALL is stemming out. You also know that CAD4ALL is no longer just a college. We've branched out into retail, so you know that we've got CAD Lab, which is our retail section. So we are actually servicing the industry all the way from high school out to your professional. So we have got the EGD kits for high school students. Pretty soon, you as students will be able to purchase your own 3D printing kit with a 3D printer and filament in partnership with Emran and Netrim. So you'll be able to purchase those. Obviously, all of our apparel and all of our other stationery gets sold on there. Then we are also launching our very first CAD print, which is going to be our printing shop, if I can put it like that. So from anywhere that you come from, if you need to do plotting, if you need to do 3D printing, if you do need to do laser cutting, you are going to come to CAD Print and you're going to be able to do all of that with us. So CAD4ALL is becoming the one-stop shop for the architecture, the engineering, and the construction industry. Okay, then the last thing that I do have to mention, which is quite exciting, and I saw the gentleman walk in at the back here. Some of our senior students, you met him last week, Pastor Alfonso. So we are working with Mount Hope, which is a rehabilitation center for men and women out there who have got substance abuse issues. So our students are working in partnership with Pastor Alfonso to design the first Mount Hope Leadership Academy, which will house 30 males and 30 females who will be going in for rehabilitation and coming out, obviously, in a new and improved lifestyle and have a future that's quite bright above them. With that, CAD4ALL will also be very much involved with the training and the physical design. And it's also going to be a competition. So the students who are going to be working on this project, there's going to be a competition for the best design, the best model, and eventually your model will be on display at CAD4ALL as well as at your first finished build project. All right, so enough of me for now. I'm going to give over to our keynote speaker, the president of the South African Institute of Building and Design, Mr. Levuko Mkwakwa. So if you give me a few moments, I am just going to quickly mic him up, and then he is going to come and take over from me here. But once again, thank you very much, our esteemed guests, all of you, our students, everybody tuning in live online. Please, thank you very much. We look forward to these 3 days with you. Follow along, come in, scan the QR code so that you can get the program on your phone. We are a green initiative this week, so no physical printed out guides. So everybody has a mobile device, so please download the show guide so you know what to look forward to. Straight after that, we will be having our first live talk in the room next door with Mr. Eric over here. He is from Ashway Investments. He's going to be talking a bit about the Energy Institute. All right, so I'm going to hand over to the president of CYBID. Thank you very much.
Well done. Nice.
Hello, how are you? Good, good. I saw you on the online thing.
Tennis.
Nice to meet you, Luvuko.
Nice to meet you, Liverpool.
Luvuko, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Visit the South
My-
African Institute.
Yes.
We're
My-
looking forward to your speech.
Oh, no pressure.
Yeah, no pressure.
Is that the one you need there?
And is this one on?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Good stuff.
Test your volume.
Testing.
On
Testing.
this one.
On this one. Oh, testing. 1, 2. All right. Just take it to the right. Can I go back? Is that on?
Put it on over there.
I'm just going to take it back to the first slide, second slide. No problem.
Just going to get a new battery. Just work with this one. Okay, just click.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Afternoon, everyone. It's really great to be here this afternoon. And I think maybe let me just start by thanking Jody and his team for inviting me. I recently met the team from CAD4ALL at the previous the Cape Expo, which was hosted by DMG. And I was very impressed when I met CAD4ALL and the team and what we're offering, and we had a very good engagement. And we've actually entered into a partnership. And I can already see that it's going to be a very fruitful one. And so this afternoon, what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce myself and Cybid and just give you a preview of the workshop I'll be presenting tomorrow. So my name is Luvuko Mkaka, as you can see on the screen. I'm an architect by profession, and I'm also the current president of the South African Institute of Building Design. And just a little bit on about Cybid. Cybid is a voluntary association. It was established in the 70s, and a little bit of background on Cybid and how it came about is that, as some of you might know, back in the day, there used to be the apartheid laws, and how Cybid came about is that they were fighting a particular law which didn't allow draftspersons to do more than 200 square meters of building. And so that's how Cybid came about. It was fighting that law, so that's how the actual VA or voluntary association was established to deal with that law. And part of that was also, at that point, there was a transition in South Africa from architecture being a craft to now becoming an actual profession, which was now becoming more regulated and accredited by government structures. And so part of what Cybid was trying to also maintain or fight for was that the craft part, or what we call apprenticeship in architecture, shouldn't be taken away. Unfortunately, predominantly, it has fallen away. And well, that's partly due to capitalism, which is good and has its disadvantages in some places. But so that's a bit of the background. And so Cybid is a voluntary association. Our main mandate, which is given by the South African Council for the Architectural Profession, is that we are here to protect architectural professionals. So we're sort of like a union for architectural professionals, whereas you might know that SACAP, which is the regulating body of the profession, is mainly there to protect the public. I don't know if everyone's aware of that. And so if that is the case, who's there protecting the professionals? And now the interesting thing and the funny thing that we've been debating is that when you become an architectural professional, what happens is that you have to register with SACAP. And so you become a member of SACAP and you pay your annual fees and you get registered after you've done your candidateship and fulfilled that whole process. But now, here's the interesting thing. Even though we, the professionals, are members of SACAP, SACAP actually doesn't protect us as professionals. It protects the public, you know, which is a rather strange relationship where we are paying for someone to give us the stick. And so that being said, well, it's how it's set up. And so that's where now the voluntary association comes in, CYBID. We are here for the professional. And so if you have issues, let's say with municipalities, we are your go-to person. If you have issues with clients, if you need assistance in any professional issue, we are the people to go to. And so that's a little bit of background. Part of also what we offer is basically training and education to our membership. And so you'll find that we do a lot of workshops, physical and online. And this is where this particular workshop comes in, which is a workshop that I've developed. It's a full-day program, but here for the purposes of this exhibition, I'll be delving into two parts or two topics under this workshop. And so usually it's a paid-for workshop. I'm doing it here complimentary, and we'll be covering the first two sections of the workshop. And so those who are then or more interested in seeing what the full workshop is about will then have to look out for communications from CYBID on when the actual workshop will be happening. And so that being said, the architectural professional as an agent of reconstruction and development, for me, is sort of a response to our mandate as CYBID. Like I said, SACAP looks after the public, we look after the professional. And one of our board members, who used to be the president, I took on after him, he also does a workshop which is similar to this. And part of what this workshop covers is there's a policy document of 1999, which basically gives the intent or what we call the preamble to the Architects Act of 2000, Act 44. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with Act 44, the Architects Act. So there's a white paper or the preamble to that act. It's a 1999 policy paper, which was implemented by the then Minister of Public Works, Stella Tsao. And so what that policy document basically addresses is two things. What is the mandate of the governing body or the regulating body, SACAP, and what is the mandate of the professional? And so what Videsh covers in his workshop, which is also an unpacking of that same paper, is that he looks into what is SACAP not doing right with regards to that white paper. And so, look, there's a lot that we can criticize the government for, and I'm not saying we shouldn't. We do need to hold the government accountable. But that being said, I think we as professionals also have our part to play. And that's why my topic looks at the professional as the agent. So there's something that we can also do as professionals. We have our part to play. And so that's what that paper covers. That being said. right. Oh, sorry. All right. So that being said, the topics that I hope to look at tomorrow, which we'll have a bit of time to have a look at the topics. I'll be covering two of the topics in the workshop, which is number one, democracy and the reconstruction and redevelopment plan. And number two, the role of the architectural professional as an agent of reconstruction. And I hope all of you are going to be here tomorrow to maybe listen to this. And what I actually delve into there is with the RDP, or the Reconstruction and Development Program, what we see there is a vision for South Africa. South Africa in 1994 was at a point, and there were certain things that needed to be done. And so the RDP gives a clear vision and mission on what needed to be done by government and professionals. And so I'll look into that. And then I get more into the policy paper of 1999, which is a distillation from the large overarching program to what the professional can actually do. And so I think that is very important. A big part of what I think is the problem in South Africa, I think we've abdicated our responsibility as professionals. We rely too much on government. We are basically a welfare state, and so that has had an effect on how we sort of view things and the world. And I usually say to my friends that there's one thing that the ANC got right at their inception, and you probably all know the slogan. They used to say, "Amandla ngawethu," and that means the power is ours. And I like that because what they realized was that the power doesn't belong to the government. We are the ones who give government power. The power actually belongs to us. And I think right now is the right time to take back that power and become agents in the reconstruction of our country and in doing what we want to see in industry. And I was just commending Jody about that with CAD4ALL. It's a very, very impressive, I think, model that I've seen that is responding to the RDP. And you'll see that when I talk about the RDP tomorrow, because what CAD4ALL is meeting essentially is part of a goal in the National Development Plan, which is to make sure everybody gets access to education and to opportunity in the industry. And so you're going to be hearing buzzwords like support, access, bottom-up approach, flexibility, and those kinds of words tomorrow. And so I want to commend CAD4ALL on that because part of the goal of government was to make sure that previously disadvantaged people and people who didn't have sufficient opportunity either to study or to have access to the mainstream economy could have a way to move from the bottom to the top. Not everybody can get into a traditional university. Not everybody is privileged. And I think in those terms, CAD4ALL meets that gap of allowing people to move up what we call the ladder. I myself started off as an architectural technologist. I went to the University of Port Elizabeth then. It was a tech at the time. And so I know personally what it means to move from the bottom to the top. And I'm now today an architect, started from the bottom and I moved up. And so I'm really honored to be here. I'm really, I feel very blessed to have everybody here. And so that being said, I'd just like to end off with this part, and it's something that I'm driving at Cybid and something that we're passionate about. At Cybid, we have student membership. It hasn't been very active in the past because obviously the people who were in Cybid were relatively old, elders. In fact, in the institute, I'm the youngest person. And in most workshops that I attend or meetings in industry, I'm usually the youngest person. And this really boggles my mind. I ask myself, where are all the young professionals? And so what I then started to drive at Cybid was that, can we revive our student membership? And so in that process, we're working with a couple of universities. Durban University of Technology is one of our partners. The UKZN is also one of our partners. And so we basically on a drive on really getting out into the universities. And I haven't said this to Jody, but I want to also extend that to CAD4ALL. We've been talking about actually having a student committee at Cybid, where we can have students now starting to drive ideas and the future. Because what I realize is that it's no use for the old folk to plan for the future. We need young professionals to plan the future for themselves, because the old folks are not going to be there in the future. And so you always hear that they say that the youth are the future. And I tend to disagree with that statement. I disagree with that statement because I feel like the future doesn't necessarily exist. I think we are the present and not the future. We need to take advantage of our opportunities now in the present. And so it's a lie for us to be told that we are the future. We are the now and we are the present, and we need to act now. And so that being said, let me stop there and just thank everyone for this opportunity. And I hope to meet each and every one of you, and we'll get to just talk a bit more. And yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you very much, President, for your keynote speech. Let me just turn myself down again. Before I blow your ears out. All right, thank you very much. Now, just to give you a bit of a layout for the rest of the day, from here, next door, as I mentioned, we are going to have our first official workshop of the day with Ashwa Investments. So those of you interested in knowing a bit more about the challenges in the industry for South African air conditioning and refrigeration, please feel free to join us in that room over there. Those of you online, we will be switching over to that room now as well, so that you can also tune in over there. Also, please feel free to speak to our exhibitors, find out a bit more about what they do, what they can offer you, and how important it is for you in the industry. One other very important and very exciting thing that I have to let you know as well, especially for you, our students, one of the things that we are working on with the South African Institute of Building and Design is for you as students to register as student members with Cybid. So you'll not only be registering with your professional body of SACAP, but you'll also be able to register as a student member with CYBIT. Okay, so that is very much in the pipeline for you. Then one thing that I would also just like to touch on before I hand over, for the team that has helped set up here, for you as students and our exhibitors, I know I gave you a bit of a quick walkthrough on Saturday. For how this place transformed in the last 3 days, I think you can see it is quite a feat. You know how it looks here every day for you guys as students as a college. So to the team, our academic team and our operational team, our administration team, everybody who has helped get this place set up and ready, thank you very much for your hard work and your input. I think we can give everybody a round of applause for that one because this place looks phenomenal. And I very much look forward to the rest of this time with you guys, as well as having you all here for the future. So thank you very much. We're going to switch over to the room next door. I'm going to give you
Does anybody see a speaker anywhere? Are there any speakers anywhere? Grant, sorry. Do you see any speakers anywhere?
Sorry?
They plugged in this thing, but I don't see any speakers.
I don't know how it works. Where's that chap?
No speakers.
If you go and find that, see if I can find
I'm just quickly going to.
Do you have speakers?
To talk over, I can bring it in here if you would prefer to speak over.
Well, I'm comfortable to speak loud.
Okay.
If the audience is okay with it. Yeah, okay.
That's good to hear. Can everybody hear Mr. Kidlin if he's students?
Hello there. No, they're not listening. Thank you. Otherwise, just bring one speaker. I'll bring a speaker here. Yeah. Thank you. All right. So whilst we're waiting for the speaker, I can just comment on what I've experienced so far. And you all are students in the CAD4ALL, I take it. Is that right? And I must, you better sign up, you. I'll get you discount price to 2 subjects only. So I must congratulate CAD4ALL on having been able to set all this up, and including finding me out of the blue, as it were, to do the presentation. And I think we had maybe 6, 7, maximum 8 emails. So it shows me that they organized, which is a good thing because you all have signed up for them and you're all aiming to get your qualifications. So so far, Institute has shown me that it is organized. Here come the speakers. Okay, yeah. Put it in the middle there. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I was just saying it. Yeah, how well you organized.
All right. I think that's a bit better. Can you all hear me now? Okay, thank you very much. So first up for our workshops, we have Mr. Killerman. So he is from Ashway Investments. So as I mentioned, he is also a member of the South African Institute for Refrigeration and Air Conditioning. And he is today, sorry, let me just get to the right page, going to give you a little bit more of an explanation of the challenges that he has experienced in his industry before. He's been in this industry for about how many years now already?
30, 40.
30 to 40 years. So you are learning from the best here. So thank you very much, Eric, for joining us. And we look forward to your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Oh, a bit lower. And I just wanted to repeat in front of everybody, but particularly in front of you, that this is a conference that I've attended with the minimum amount of emails backwards and forwards. No, really, it takes some doing. And it shows me that you guys know what you're doing.
Thank you very much.
So, and I hope all the students are listening, so they better do well in their exam.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, then. Thank you all for coming along. And I'm going to not ask how many design plans. Yeah, general question. How many, let's say, house plans or small industrial building plans have you all drawn up? One each or some done a couple? How many have drawn up? Let's stick up the hands. How many have drawn up a plan? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, fine, 7. Yeah, that's good going. But I hate to tell you this, but I've not seen your plans. But I assure you that whoever you've drawn the plans for will not be able to use them at all. And the reason why I make that rather bold statement is with how many of you have drawn in the electrical box and the council water connection on your plans? Wow, 2 houses. Great, very well done. No, that's a very telling point where I want to just use it as a startup to the practical problems we experience as mechanical engineers providing services to buildings and obviously services inside buildings. But the normal, what we experience, the normal council plan that we see does not show where the water connections, where the waste connections, and where the electricity connections are. Now, I do a fair amount of fire plan approvals, and there's no ways you get a fire plan across through council for their approval, because if it doesn't show the water connection. So remember that, and your lecturers may be a bit easy on that, but really to draw a useful plan for your client, remember to show the water connection. He'll say, oh, he doesn't know, whatever. Make it your business to find out. Normally the civil engineers get sort of involved in water and waste. And you may want to tell your client that you must get the civil engineer and find out. So that's the first one. Excuse me. Now, if we look at energy saving, let's see what we've got here. What's the next one? Yeah. Okay. When all else fails, press the button. Yeah, this world is full of buttons these days. When I grew up, we used to have levers and handles. Now it's only buttons. And you know what? They can't even paint some red and some green, because that would make it foolproof. Now all the buttons are black. You could call in the mechanic to see which one. Never mind. Yeah. Then we need to accommodate engineering plant in and around buildings. Engineering plant could be kitchen, could be a laundry, it could be a cold room, it could be even compressors, it could be fans, all sorts of engineering gadgets. And the brief for the architect is to provide a plant room. Now, for him to provide a plant room, he's got to be some idea what he's providing for. And you need to have some pictures. And here my colleague Grant is very good in showing pictures on his diagrams. Because what he does, he sends his site agent around to actually photograph that left-hand corner of the building. And then he gives me a plan of the left-hand corner, and at the top, the pipe goes along. So there is no doubt what is meant, implication in architectural, finishing the architectural drawing. There must be shown that pipe. Now this, again, this whole technique of using 3D pictures, and we've seen there's lots of 3D people here, is going to become more and more on drawings. You're going to have drawings with small pictures in the corners and wherever else of critical areas, and you as draftspeople should be aware where the critical area, where some services have to go through. And it is a modern development, but it's, in my opinion, a far better development than you having to look through different views, front views and side views and end views and so on. And this is what I highlight, that we have these isometric views. Now you can bypass that by putting a picture in there. Does everybody know what's isometric, by the way? Okay, you've all done that. Right. And then the two older conventions that we used to have, first angle and third angle. Have any of you heard of that convention of doing drawings? Oh, good, good, good. Okay, let's just go. Okay, well, we'll come to it just now. All right, yeah. So I'll quote you a point by point review, because when you do an engineering drawing, oh, welcome. Welcome. You the variation orders, are you? After the job's been started, you come along. Welcome. So what I'm trying to illustrate to you that your drawing must comply point by point. And the sort of points to look for is energy saving devices. They must be accommodated. If the list says look, an extract fan in the roof, that may be good enough for whoever provides the fan, but you as draftsperson should ask your engineer, now where is this extract fan? So location must be determined. And obviously, if you are aware of the need for electricity, you'll ask the engineer, listen, where does the nearest electricity come from for this fan that sits in the roof? Yeah, and the space allocations, as I mentioned just now, must be marked up for a fan or whatever else it is. And when I say marked up, there must be a dotted block on your drawing, space for future fan, some indication that engineering equipment has to be mounted in this project before it's finished. And then the approval of the rest of the design team, that is, I don't know, psychographic, I suppose we could say. It's psychology and graphics combined, because you're going to have to stew with your colleagues. I want space for the fan. No, but there's rafters and drain pipes and things. No. You want space for the fan. Because remember, the big issue in building anything on site is a clash of the drains and of the rain pipes and of balustrades, staircases. So you need to spend all your time and effort to preconceive where must this pipe go, to see if it can go through the staircase or whatever else that's drawn up there. You will be saving your client lots of money. You'll be preventing all sorts of reworks. You'll be minimizing the amount of variation orders. So make it your brief. And you may say, yeah, but I know nothing about it. Well, then you go and ask. You go and ask them. If it says the building is well ventilated, surely it will cause you to think, now where are these ventilation fans? Where are these openings? Where are these fresh air inlets for this well ventilated building? Right, and then we did mention the minor location ones, that's your ducts. And yeah, and then now then comes the last, or not the last, the second last one, the plant room size. Again, there is no hard and fast rule. I can't say all plant rooms are 7 square meters or 15 square meters. That's entirely project dependent. And being an engineer, I always claim for the maximum amount of meterage for the plant room. And you're going to have to fight for that, because the engineer on your plans will say, no, he wants more square meters. You need to then fight with your client and your engineer, say, look, I haven't got the space or whatever. Now, I don't know if these sort of facets have been brought home to you in your training so far, but space costs money, simple as that. So space is always at a premium, no matter what you do with that building. Yeah, and then the last topic, we got major topic, is your access routes. Now, you may want to think that the plank on 2 scaffolds 5 meters up is quite okay for accessing, putting the top course of brickwork in. Well, yeah, maybe if you've got a number of bricklayers, because they do fall down. But you need to be sure that whatever plant room space you've allocated on your drawing, there is a staircase going up there, or there's a doorway going in there. And then you say, what size must the doorway be? Now, what is happening in air conditioning equipment, it all seems to come around about 600 millimeters wide. And that is done for one reason, that the world's doors are generally 600 millimeters wide. Now, it's very clever to make it 6 meters wide, but then they find the plant itself is 3 meters long. And then your 600 millimeters has gone out the window because you can't go around the corner. So if you have these access ways, you need to allow space for the access of that equipment. And equipment, you say, once it's all built in and run, yes, but don't forget your client is investing his money. His return on investment is at least 15 years. So you'll think by year 14, well, hang on, can't I increase the space so I can get more tenants and so on? And that's when it comes in for future extensions. And even better if you could have some roofed over space in your plant room. Say, right, but I've got 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 square meters available in the plant room to put an extra tank in or something. So it's vitally important that you think of the future. Yeah, and upgrades, it's much the same thing, new equipment. Although generally the trend is for upgrades. Interesting facet I've noticed in Cape Town's office buildings, they used to have what we call big plant rooms with fans and so on. Not floor by floor, but certainly once every 4th or 5th floor in a tall building. Big plant rooms, big fans, intakes and so on, long pipes, this and that. But because the better cooling achievable with modern equipment, the need for lots of plant rooms in the building goes away. And maybe you have one plant room on the ground floor and you have another one on the 15th floor. And then the rest of the building is conditioned, air conditioned, by means of the plant located in these 2 plant rooms. So it doesn't affect you directly. It should be from the mechanical engineer, but the trend is towards less plant room space being required for future extensions. And always make sure, it makes me think, when you're drawing, are you drawing for today's instruction? Or did the client tell you, listen, draw it for now, but 10 years time I want to extend? So make sure that the brief that you are drawing to is clear in your mind. Because hopefully the client will come back and employ your drawing office when year 14 comes along. Okay. The famous thing, we call them the bean counters. Now, as we're dealing with a professional drafting institute here, I have to acknowledge that professional name is quantity surveyors. But the practical name is bean counters. Every single penny, they want to know what it's spent on, why it's spent on. So your implication by your drawing, simply a line on a piece of paper, is very much involved in the costing of that project. And there again, you need to be aware before you start drawing, what is your client thinking? Has he got a budget of about 10 million, maybe plus or minus a bit? Or is he totally limited to 9,564.20? So your strict budget requirements could mean you have to sharpen your pencil and draw out economically. And if the client's budget isn't that tight, you can bring in the energy savings, the modern equipment, the streamlined layout of plant rooms. Yeah, and that's all into the volume. And then in order to get into those volumes or the plant rooms, you need to have, we talked about the access ways, but you may also design plant rooms with removable panels. The extreme of that is Tygerberg Hospital, where I worked for a long time. We had on top of the 12th floor of the clinical block, we had the air conditioning equipment. And that was getting old and beyond. So I thought, now what can I do to get some new equipment up there? And the only way out was at the time, fly it up with helicopters. Now, you don't want to go that route, but sometimes it's the most cost-efficient route. And then the area costs are the square meterage costs. And the plant room it's got flooring costs, it's got floor, it's got the walls, the ceilings, and all the other stuff that make up a plant room. So there again, you need to establish, is it likely that a whole lot of oil will be spilt in the plant room? If that's the case, you obviously design your flooring accordingly. Is it likely that some acid may come out of some cleaner or blower or something? Again, ask the questions first. What does happen is if you can lift out the cost over and above, normal floor versus oil proof, normal floor versus acid proof. And then when the client says, I haven't got the money, then you can say, oh, Mr. Client, but if we eliminate the acid proof tiles, then your floor saving will be so much. But he, as a client, has eliminated that from the brief. So he cannot come back to say, oh, my floor got eaten up by the acid. It's his business to run his business such, progress such, that he doesn't spill the acid. Because your floor is normal standard concrete floor. Yeah, storage rooms, that also gets forgotten. And again, if I quote Tigerbrook Hospital, I don't want to list out here at this conference what I have found in their storage rooms, but it defies all description of human habitation. So you want to be sure that the storage room generally are not stuck away behind the staircase, which is a favorite position, but in front, past the main passage where everybody walks in. So if somebody leaves the door open, at least it can be seen and it can be closed. Now this is after you've done your job properly the first time. Then the client comes back and says, listen, now we're going to update this place. So when you do updating, a couple of basics you need to be aware of. You need to have official clearance. Official clearance means the client is going to improve his hospital building based on some instruction from the medical, whatever, so and so. We now want 1,500 beds and we only have 1,200 beds. You may get an idea from the maintenance contractor that those chillers on the top of the building 12 floors up, they're gone. We need now to put new chillers on. And then the dictum that goes worldwide and that you can't go wrong and that you always must have in your back pocket, SOP. Anybody can explain to me what's SOP? Not you, Grant.
Standard operating.
You're going to get the job. Really, 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 the biggest issue is the client is doing non-standard things, the maintenance contract doing non-standard things, and a whole lot collapses. So you must ask your client, look, I want to upgrade so and so. Say, fine, where is your standard operating procedure? And 10 to 1, you find they haven't got one. I'm dealing with such a client now. And then it's up to you as a professional person, look, can we draw it up for you? It may mean you may have to call in a mechanical engineer or this or that, but it's certainly not outside of your scope to suggest to the client that he gets a standard operating procedure, which you then use as your design manual, as it were. He's going to clean the fans every 4 weeks and change the filters every 6 months and so on. But that must be written up somewhere. Otherwise, you end up doing things for the client, he's paying for it, and the very next day he'll phone you up, oh, listen, but the fan has stopped working. What's this rubbish business you've done here? So to cover yourselves, make sure you're aware of what standard operating procedure is in place in that factory or building, wherever. Yeah, and now in order to get things to improve, anybody who can tell me what is SI? Yo. Any suggestions? Have you heard of a site instruction? That little piece of paper that's only in the small little notebooks contractors are saving. Please provide new machinery on the roof with a helicopter. You want the client to write out what he wants done, site instruction. And then you can go back to him and say, look, I'll put in your compressor, come, here's my bill. Unless he catches you out and says, who told you to go and put this thing on? No, I know nothing about it. And then the other famous one, oh, but he said, no, no, you said, no, but he, and then, oh, the he says and the we says are not part of our professional building. As a brief answer. Get whatever instruction it is written up by the client, get him to sign it off, and you sign it off as well. And then it goes along in the normal contractual method. Yeah, and then how do you find out all these things? Obviously through visiting the job per se. Now, I'm saying particularly contractor site visit because the contractor is the first face to the client. You as designers, stroke, craftspeople and so on, you don't have a direct face with the client because you do the drawings on behalf of the client, but that's where it stops. It's for the client to hand those drawings to the contractor. But you must not cut off the line to your contractor because he knows all the background to the changes. He knows all the background, who thinks what, who says what, and so on and so on. So although it's not a formal line of authority, it's certainly a line of authority which I recommend. You get in touch with a contractor, you may have to give him a couple more prints or this or that or this or that. That's fair going, but you need that information because he's on that site every day from morning till night. Yeah, and then how do we formally do that? Because the contractor just say site instruction, this or that. He's come. That recording sometime. Anyway, it's all working. It's working. Okay, thank you. All right. Now we've done the bits of drawings where you people are so interested in doing this here. Now, my special field is energy saving, as you heard announced earlier on today. I want to just point out to you that when I say energy saving, I'm being very general. There's obviously the issue of fans and taps and this and that when you can save energy by circulating air. But there's even issue of saving effort on the drawing, which is also energy. You say, what energy? Yeah, talk about your servers, talk about all your IT equipment that must run before you can draw one line. And that is really becoming out and out a cost factor, that every drawing you produce here in this office, 40% of its cost being electricity to drive the IT systems. And you'll hear about it all from the Revit people and so on tomorrow. And again, in terms of operating economically, you need to be aware of how you can save. on using less energy in your drawing procedure. Yeah, okay. Now, if you want to look at aspects of energy saving, you can look at the volumes. Yeah, you can look at those 4 areas, 4 areas mentioned, and you can look at the designated areas. If you have a ventilated or an air-cooled area, you're better off by having 2 double doors, in other words, an airlock, so as not to lose all the cool air outside of the building. Yeah, we mentioned plant rooms before. You can have more localized plant rooms, or you can have the service plant rooms. And yeah, the big thing with the plant rooms is plant rooms have a lot of pipes going into the building. Please note that all the pipes, all the penetration going through your walls and so on must be fire rated. And that is not for neither reason than otherwise the building won't be approved by the fire chief. He is convinced that all the fire will go up the air duct from the one floor and put the next floor alight. I still have to see that, but maybe in my next incarnation. Right, yes, access ways, we've talked about access ways. The only thing I haven't mentioned is your width and your steps. Well, it comes in trying to bring the 600 by 3 meter long chiller through the plant room door. No good if it's 2 landings, one goes up and one goes down, and in the middle is your plant room door. So you need to be planning, and it's quite simple to do it, and really my granddaughter does that. You cut yourself a little 600 by 3 meters piece of paper and you slide it around on your drawing to see if you can make all the turns that it requires to get that plant into the plant room. Let's see what's next. Yeah, this slide is fairly self-explaining, energy savings. Yes, these are the sort of key, shall I say, assessments or key critical assessments you've got to do. Is this going to be of commercial benefit? Is this going to lead to better operation, better quality frozen fish? Is it going to lead to better service? You drive past the KFC window and you'll get your chips in 5 seconds flat. Again, clients are very keen to say, oh, I'm going to build this grand KFC. I'm going to have this fryer and that extraction canopy and so and so, so and so. You can always be, because your position you're in of drawing, you can always be critical. Ask your client, now do you really think that air conditioning, your cashier's check with this fancy aircon is going to help the service delivery to the client who drives past in his car and it's got further no contact? And then you should maybe suggest to the client, if he doesn't want to address that problem, say ask the mechanical engineer to do an energy assessment. Because what's come onto our doorstep fairly recently sounds not 10400. I forgot the number right now. But we need to have an energy certification for all of our buildings, public areas and working areas. And the energy certification is basically how much energy is used by operating the building compared to what energy could be saved. So it's almost like a ratio or a percentage. Now, these are council requirements. They're not your responsibility, but it's up to you to request the architect or the engineer, have they got the energy rating for this building resolved? It's a fat lot of good. You're drawing away merrily. All of a sudden comes instruction. No, we want 2 more fans here, and 3 more air conditioning plants there, and so on and so on. And by the fact that you're asking the client, or at least you're asking the professionals, they must put their thinking caps on and say, yeah, you know what, there's a point. We could maybe save some energy. So think of your colleagues as your friends and think of the outside world as your enemies. They're all there waiting to catch you out, this and that. But through yourself and your professional colleagues, you can be ready for their questions. Yeah, this is getting a little bit into engineering design, but what it highlights is that the various engineering methods which you will see on the drawing, particularly from the plant supplier, machinery supplier, if there's space to be made for welded joints, if there's space to be made for taking equipment apart or loosening it or even tightening it on site, make sure that your design can cope with that. Yeah. Point number 4 is the biggest problem I have with architectural drawings. The pipes between the one part of the building and the other part of the building do not connect. The cables do not connect. The air ducting and the spaces do not connect. When I say not connect, sometimes they're out by a face, in other words, right around 90 degrees, and sometimes they're out by 200 millimeters. But with your drawing going on to site and the piping being out by 200 millimeters, that is a major holdup in construction. It needs to get the approval of the engineer, blah, blah, blah. So you want to ensure yourself, sorry, that you can, apologies, that you can see your services being continuous. Now, my thinking and my knowledge of the drawing systems, the Revits and so on, is that they will probably be building in some type of feature into their program to check on all the faces that you've drawn in on that drawing, all the piping, nominated and designated, will be interconnecting. We've talked about your municipal connections. So that's just a bit of advice there. Now, the floor is open to questions. Have you got qualification certificates? They've not one question, so they almost get a qualification certificate.
All the students here know what plant room means. You actually know what plant room means. Because I tested this with some I came across some guys the other day. Spoke about a plant room. They were like, no, they don't understand what plant room is.
I grow my begonias in the plant room.
I know we expected. Can you explain to them, Mr. Gillen, what is a plant room? I don't think we
Yeah. Look, it gets various names. The generic name worldwide is plant room, but it's also called machinery room, machinery space, equipment space, boiler house.
Plant room, but there's not a single plant in it. You will not find a bonsai tree or a rose or anything. It's actually just full of machines.
Boiler house, pump house,
yes,
fan room. Yeah, but I must have a generic talk. No, but it's a valid point. It's a valid point. But you'll learn that very quickly, and generally the architect allocates names to the spaces. That's his brief. And you may want to tackle him and say, well, what plant goes in here? Maybe it's air compressors. Then you know you're going to need big doors to get them in and out and so on. Any other questions? Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that they want to prevent fire from going up ducts.
Yes, yes.
What do they do to prevent that?
Yeah, it's called fire stopping. It's a separate field in itself. Fire stopping is like mastic. The stuff you put in your windscreen to stop the water leaking. That sort of pliable stuff. And the mastic is such that on the application of heat, it cures up. As it cures up, it swells out against any gaps, maybe between the pipe and the brick or something. And it seals open completely. You put it in, you put a plate of water, you fill the mastic into on the floor level, and then with any heat coming in, it will foam up, as it were. Any more questions? Well, thank you all for listening. I'm very impressed. Any points of discussion, queries? Okay, my question. How much of this, what you heard today, have you done? Are you at 20% you've already heard of, or is it 80%? Those who heard 20% and never heard of the rest before. Nobody? Who's heard 30, 40%? You've heard about some of the words today in your 50, 60%, you've heard some, you've heard some, you've heard some, okay. The rest haven't heard at all. Yo, maybe I must come back in your next year. No, well, thank you very much. It's always a challenge because I do a fair amount of lecturing. It's a challenge to latch onto your audience. You don't pitch it too high or too low. Okay, thank you. Pleasure. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. No, it does make sense. Yeah, I want to disconnect this pen contraption. Yeah, if you can see what's going on. Yeah, thank you. Now, battery sits in my pocket.
All right, I see that. Okay. There we go. How you spoke up?
No, thank you. It's all sort of related.
My daughter attends here.
you.